Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 99 today for the Italian Grand Prix in Season 6. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Belgium Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was a really great race for us. It was a close-fought one with all three of us, myself, Antonio Giovinazzi, and George Russell fighting for the top three positions, and we're of course the top three in the World Drivers' Championship. So that was a really neat thing to have. A bit of chaos and jeopardy in that one, with Carlos Sainz causing a safety car and a massive undercut for us that ultimately allowed us to, play tactically, do a bit of clever defending, some work with the DRS, as you have to do at circuits like this and Monza, where, the DRS is so powerful in the F1 game, you have to play it well. And also, of course, our engine was very worn out around Spa, so we had to really play it tactically to make sure we overtook certain people at the correct time, at this, correct sort of place at the circuit to maintain what was, in the end, a fantastic race victory at Belgium. The back-to-back from the British Grand Prix to here, and it means now, somehow, we lead the Drivers' Championship by 1 point to Giovinazzi in the Lotus Renault, and then a couple of points back for George Russell, of course, but all three of us with 2 wins apiece. Even Ocon in P4 there with 2 wins, and if Ferrari actually wanted to pick up their socks again, like they were at the start of the season, Ocon could still technically kind of maybe try and jimmy his way into this one, but it's looking a bit more likely in terms of the consistent men. It's going to be myself, Gio, and Russell. But, even saying that, I'm happy that we're just even here again, because there was so many points earlier in the season. I think some of you guys were in the same way, maybe, where it was like, are we even going to be able to get back into this? Because we had so much poor luck. We had so many incidents in that, first half of the season, but 2 back-to-back victories in the same races where our rivals maybe scored a few less points than they would have wanted to, and obviously the mid-season market madness shake-up has meant that this second half of the season, it's anyone's game, and it's kind of all reset, and we go again. Like I mentioned in that last race, our engine was pretty damn worn out, and in the middle of qualifying, we had the control electronics come up as worn. That was fine, but then as we went on through the race, clearly the worn out control electronics basically wore out the rest of the components a lot faster than I was hoping. I was, though, always going to be waiting for the Italian Grand Prix. I had a thought about doing these penalties last episode, but it's actually good we didn't, because we ended up winning that race. But now we're going to take it at Italy. The next one is the Singapore Grand Prix, and although we've done very well from the back of the grid at Singapore, the components are so worn out that we actually need the components just for performance here around Monza, where obviously the engine makes a massive difference. So we have to take a new energy store, control electronics, MGUK. Now, the energy store and MGUK, those really are only having to be taken right now because those are the 2 components we lost and had a DNF to earlier in the season. So you're seeing a real consequence of those mechanical engine failures in the middle of the season in those earlier races, having to force our hand for penalties now later in the season where other drivers may not be doing them at the moment. We were reluctant to take components of the other things basically in the engine because, well, for one, we don't need to. The other components, they can last in the season. And also, if you remember, at the French Grand Prix, I literally took a new set of engine components, and that was when we had the failure. So I've kind of got PTSD of there being a little bit of a weird, funny thing right now in the game, in the late game, in the later seasons, where you take a new component and then it fails straight away. So I'd rather not risk that and just take the components we absolutely have to take. So we've gone out just to test everything's working in good order and just see how the car is feeling lightly on this setup and everything like that in Q1. Quite overcast. There was some forecast for some rain maybe on Saturday. I think the race thankfully will be all dry. That would have been an absolute nightmare of a scenario, taking an engine penalty to the back of the grid and having a wet race, but no, I think it should be all dry. But the car feeling pretty okay. Obviously the lap time is not representative of anything really. We just went out there, completed one flyer just to kind of feel the car in the corners a little bit. But yeah, we're going to be then retiring from that point in qualifying because there's no point continuing on. But the Ferraris look strong. Russell looks good. Giovinazzi and Lotus Renault in general losing a little bit of pace from Spa to Monza, so maybe alluding to other teams running a little bit lower downforce settings. Mercedes actually looking pretty okay there. AlphaTauri and Red Bull's quite close together. McLaren and Williams paired together as they are in the Constructors' Championship. So that is where our qualifying day ends. We can't even watch the rest of the qualifying, so let's go to the grids and see what kind of surprise we may get on that starting lineup.
Welcome back to one of only two countries that has held a race every year since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. It is, of course, Italy, one of the great racing nations. And it's time to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. With top speeds reaching 215 miles per hour, only a few places can challenge Monza's crown as the fastest circuit in F1. Hard braking zones going into the 3 chicanes make up the majority of the 11 corners on this 3.6-mile circuit. And just in case the slipstream wasn't enough, 2 DRS zones will help encourage some closer action. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Let's discuss Red Bull. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Antonio Giovinazzi, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Valtteri Bottas, and Drugovich, Sainz, Ocon, Norris, and Marcus Armstrong. Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Joe, Yuki Tsunoda, and Russell, Lundgaard, Verstappen, Jack Aitken, and Lewis Hamilton, Matsushita, Tigtum, Eilert, and the owner driver. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So we have a truly very surprising starting grid, actually. I did not expect that. So George Russell, our teammate, has also taken at least one grid penalty. I thought this race may have been a great opportunity for him because we're at the back of the grid. Giovinazzi, at least in Q1, was behind Russell in that, so I thought maybe our car was looking the better of the two. And obviously Russell's the one in third place in the championship with way more points off the top of myself and Gio, who are only separated by 1 point. So this could have been a great race for Russell to score a load of points on both of us. But no, he's got a penalty. He only qualified P4 then, and then took a 10th place. Giovinazzi is on the front row for his second home race of this season. So it's all to play for in terms of Giovinazzi gaining a load of points on not only me, but Russell as well. Even the Red Bulls, you know, this is a good opportunity for them to score quite well and maybe try and mount a bit of a comeback in the Constructors' Championship. Stroll did really well in qualifying, it would seem, obviously with a new engine because he had a DNF last episode, so clearly that new engine's working well for him as he out-qualified Drugovich. And generally a few little surprises there. Leclerc on pole, the 2 Mercedes right up there, P4 and 5, so it could be a mixed up race at the sharp end. For us though, the first half of this race is survival, try and keep our nose clean as we can and try and cut through the slower cars. It's going to be a one-stop, it looks like, but we know we really need to watch out for the tyre at the end of stints and that undercut, the pit stop window, that will be crucial as well. But here we go, following back-to-back wins in this season, we start at the back of the grid for the Italian Grand Prix. We go to 5 red lights here in Monza, and we're underway for 27 laps, and we get a decent start versus Dan Ticktum in the Aston Martin. Up the road from second place on the grid, Giovinazzi with an electric star. The home favourite is into P1 already. Leclerc fighting for P3, it would seem. We're fighting just to try and get through into turn 1 in one piece. We get up into P19, overtaking Jack Aitken, but that curve on the inside, you need to watch out for it, because if you get pinched in, you can actually break your floor, so I have to be very careful. Hamilton going very slow in the Haas, and he holds up Lundgaard, an absolute treat there. Don't know if Hamilton has got maybe some damage from the first few corners there. The Haas cars both in the wars. Verstappen, I believe, yeah, he's just up the road holding up Russell. So Russell, saying that he started P14, actually is down to P15, so he's lost a position as we have gained multiple. So Russell, not the most ideal start to the race. If I was in his position, you would hope that we'd be up into about at least P12 or 11, but to be fair, he makes an overtake now on Verstappen up into P14 where he started, but now his true race begins now in clean air, and we know how quick he is, so it's surprising to see him have a slow start, but maybe just warming up a little bit with this first stint potentially. Now we see some fighting up the road. Verstappen makes a bit of contact with a BMW Sauber. Both of them may be into the pit lane. Yes, they are. Mick Schumacher as well on the silver arrow, so we're up into P14 then, making actually in the end of it okay progress on lap 1. It's 3 wide into turn 1 though, with the 2 Ferraris and Drogovic's Red Bull into the first 2 turns. Lap 2, and it looks like Ocon has come off the better. Drogovic right behind him though, giving him a real good fight and putting him under continued pressure. And meanwhile, the 2 previous teammates, Norris and Sainz, close together. McLaren V Ferrari once again. Russell on the back of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda though, looking to make a move on the outside of Parabolic, and this could be a real sweet move for Russell. And then ahead of him, well, you've got quite a big train actually all the way up to Norris, as we now see Sainz is in. Sainz is in for an early pit stop, so a lot of people getting damage. Remember, simulation damage, it doesn't just affect me, it affects the AI as well, and so that's why I was so, insistent on taking it nice and easy in the first few corners, even the opening lap, maybe not going for too aggressive moves, because you just never know when the pack is so close together. Everyone's on high alert, trying to make the most of the opening laps, and a lot of people have been caught out. At least 3-4 cars that would have been ahead of us are now behind us, and we've got those free positions as we see Norris defending well against Gasly. Then you've got Armstrong, the new Williams Jaguar driver this year, having a little look. Behind him, Guan Yu Zhou, Russell, Tsunoda, and then we are there. We've closed up to the Japanese driver, and we can potentially try and make a move. DRS is activated now on this lap. Lap number 3, we're going to gain on the McLaren, but Tsunoda has been defending really well this season, places his car very awkwardly, and I just can't make a move on the inside there, and a little bit of a shimmy and shake as we jumped over the curb, and that's unsettled the car enough that the Lotus Renault Christian Lundgaard is now coming back at us then on the outside, giving us a decent fight. That car is pretty decent now at this stage of the season, and Lundgaard and also Giovinazzi and of course Drogovic when he used to be in the team, all 3 of those guys have been gaining focus, gaining AI stats, so those guys have really come into their own. So Lundgaard gave us a little bit of a worry there, but now we can turn our attention back to Yuki Tsunoda. He defends on the inside. We take it easy, roll the car through. There's no need to really stamp on the brake pedal. You can just afford to roll the car easily through and just make sure you get on the racing line. Bit of contact there, so I just made sure I didn't actually get any damage off Tsunoda, because that was a little bit fine, because the AI do love to pinch you a little bit into turn 1. And now look at this, a fight for the lead. Lance Stroll, oh, the Canadian, after we kind of put him down a little bit of his move to Red Bull and the DNF he had last episode, he's maybe showing up everyone here as he goes for the race lead. It's Stroll v Giovinazzi. Leclerc's in there. It's 3 wide for the race lead here at the Italian Grand Prix. It's now Leclerc versus Stroll in the Red Bull versus the AlphaTauri. Giovinazzi is down to P3 in a flash. He's lost 2 positions there, and that was great racing though. 3 wide into turn 1 for the race win is absolutely exceptional, and that's what you get at MONZA with a slipstream. You can see 3 wide between the 2 Williams cars. Russell attempting to overtake them, but to no use. Tsunoda coming back at us a little bit. It's all getting very, very close. Armstrong blocks us off a little bit. Bit of contact. Tyre on the grass. More contact with Armstrong. We've locked up and we've spun. We've somehow avoided an accident with the Williams car and then the Aston Martin as we flick spin the car around. I wasn't really looking where the Aston Martin was, so we were inches away from taking ourselves out on the Aston Martin, and we were inches away from the Williams car T-boning us. Marcus Armstrong, 2 bits of contact. The first one was okay, just a tyre on the grass, but the second bit of contact, I think, was my fault of trying to squeeze a little bit too much back to the racing line. You can see there I was just a little bit too overeager to move the car back to the right-hand side of the circuit to try and get the move done down the inside, and instead we locked the rear locked up, and that's what sent the car spinning. But look how close that was. We were, well, Armstrong can count himself very, very lucky, because he almost just had me spinning into the front of him, and then the Lotus Renault of Lundgaard got caught on the curb, and that's brought out the full course safety car. But we can count ourselves lucky we don't have a front wing change, but we are going to change the tyres then, because they'll be absolutely cooked now after that initial spin on the grass pass and locking the rears, and then also the flick spin as we turn the car around. But that's fine, you know, this would be a free pit stop. This could actually be a good opportunity. Now, to be honest, quite a lot of people might be trying the same, also pitting under the safety car for a free pit stop. But we're down to P14. It's not the end of the world, though. P14, you know, only a couple of positions off where we were, and with the safety car, we'll bunch up. So it could have been a lot worse in terms of that scenario, because if I hadn't have actually locked up and span initially, I probably would have just plowed straight on into the side of Russell. So that was actually quite lucky for him and for the team's sake as well, and our own race, because we could have easily, you know, shed off the suspension arm of the front tyre and be out of this Grand Prix. So my life did flash before my eyes there a little bit as we saw the Williams, like, you know, 5 centimetres away from T-boning me. But it's all good then. Into the pit stop then, under the safety car. But you may have seen there, as I go onto mediums, if you're watching carefully and paying attention to the screen, Giovinazzi, Russell, so many others have made that pit stop, but they've gone onto another set of soft tyres. So are a bunch of them thinking it's too early then to go on to mediums to the end? I and the team think it is going to be fine to get to the end on these mediums, maybe with a bit of tyre management, but interesting. So maybe a 2-stop on the cards, even for us later in this race. It's a long roll race to go. We go green now. We're in P17, but so much can change so quickly. Verstappen in the Haas defends against us a little bit as we look to go around the outside. Verstappen with a huge dive bomb, and the Haas overtakes a Williams and a Ferrari and is now side by side with the man who replaced him in Mercedes, Mick Schumacher. We get Guan Yu Zhou on the entry of turn 1 up into P16, but Verstappen is actually showing, even in that inferior Haas, he can do some good work when the opportunities arise. But yeah, in hindsight, you know, Russell P12, we're P16, you know, for what we had for that spin, really not bad. So, and we've got a lot of this Grand Prix to go. If there is a 2-stop involved and we are trying to get to the end on mediums, we could even gain even further. So let's not get too bogged down with what's happened so far in this Grand Prix. But a little bit of a mistake there, going a bit wide and understeering. That allows Guan Yu Zhou to get a great run. We know the Williams has good straight line speed, so we have to defend against him up the road. Verstappen getting hounded by quicker cars, and that's slowing people up. But we're slow through that corner again on that left-hander after Ascari. We just lose so much time going wide as well, and Guan Yu Zhou is able to again have a little look at us. This time he's fully alongside us. We defend successfully. Meanwhile, Russell right the long way around on Pierre Gasly, and meanwhile up the road it is a 4-wide moment here down the main straight here at Monza. 2 Red Bulls, 2 Lotus Renaults. That is absolutely awesome to see. Meanwhile, we overtake Verstappen. We're fighting Verstappen still because he actually got a good run on us through Parabolica. So Verstappen really not giving up with this endeavour as Sainz and Schumacher are side by side. And I think the Red Bulls just about came off better in that fight with the Lotus Renaults. No, actually, to be fair, Giovinazzi ahead of Drogovic. Lundgaard way ahead of Lance Stroll has been squeezed out. So the Lotus Renault supremacy is kicking off here as the man who got kicked out of Red Bull overtakes the man who replaced him. Giovinazzi versus Drogovic, P5 to 6. And Russell's actually been re-overtaken by Pierre Gasly. He's having to re-overtake the man, the AlphaTauri, and maybe try a double move on Lance Stroll. Can he do it? Round around the outside. Great move for Russell. Bit of contact though for Jack Aiken in the BMW. And as Russell made the move, the BMW is out of this Grand Prix and brings out a second safety car. And this one only like 2 laps after the first one came in. So lap 9, yellows again. We're up into P14. I suspect quite a few people who have not made a pit stop under the first safety car may come in, like Carlos Sainz, well, Schumacher and Stroll. Well, I mean, Schumacher and Sainz, they'd actually obviously made an earlier pit stop, remember, before the first safety car. So a few people, quite a fair few people, get out of our way then and make another pit stop then. So we're up into P7. Russell at the moment in P5, and I believe Giovinazzi is in the top 3 of this race then. So this is, well, interesting. We've still got a long way to go, but we're going to go green now on towards lap 12 and try and get a move done on Pierre Gasly. Meanwhile, Giovinazzi is in P2. Could he pressurise Leclerc to get back into the race lead he once was in? Drogovic also making some moves maybe in the Red Bull as he tries to get to Esteban Ocon, I think, and is actually attacking Giovinazzi now instead, and Russell gets overtaken by Gasly. So Russell falling asleep at the wheel a little bit in the first few turns, and now we've got a great chance to overtake him. We're gaining we're getting at to lift off a little bit because we actually caught him up so quickly in this slipstream. He outbrakes us though. We're side by side. He hops over the curb and he's made contact with us. Russell! You may be wondering at what point this season would it happen? Well, it's taken till the Italian Grand Prix to occur. Myself and Russell, bitter rivals last season, and we've made contact now as teammates this season at the Italian Grand Prix. We've lost half our front wing. Now Lundgaard and Bottas have a great run. Lundgaard on the right-hand side. Bottas is looking pretty damn aggressive here. He's going to go for the move, isn't he? We're going to have to brake early, try and let them through, try and make the corner, as the Aston Martin, though, has hit the back of us, I think that was. I had to brake earlier. If I didn't brake earlier, I was going to make the corner, but in doing so, the Aston Martin hasn't realised that, and it just slammed into the back of me, and that's brought out a third safety car. So in the end, that actually might help us a little bit. Ironically, I wasn't planning on trying to bring out a safety car to pit under, and Russell's come in now for his pit stop, because remember, he was on soft. So I think even Giovinazzi might be in as well. So all the people who are trying a two-stop have used this safety car now to make that second pit stop onto a set of medium tyres. Russell's in for mediums, the Williams, I think Giovinazzi as well. We're in, though, for another set of mediums then, and a front wing change. You know, the plan was to continue on, so if we didn't make that contact with Russell, we would have been, you know, way ahead of everyone now at this point on that first set of medium tyres. But the front wing change needed, but under a safety car because of that incident earlier. But this is what happened on board with Russell. He just hops over the curb, and, well, to be fair to him, has no control of, you know, his car mid-air, just hopping. But I gave him all the room in the world to not need to take that much curb and be able to make the corner fine. So, I don't know, it is a racing incident, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating for myself or Russell that we've made contact as teammates. And for me, especially with the front wing being off, I'm now down to P17. So we've had 3 safety cars in this race. We're only 13 laps in. We've had so many overtakes, so much chaos, and after all of that, we're still down in P17. Russell P13, Giovinazzi P11, to be fair, because pretty much from P1 down to, I would say, P8, all those guys, they're on hard tyres. They are trying a one-stop. They pit onto hards from their first pit stop. The rest of them, Leclerc down, were all trying a two-stop, barring me, of course. I've been forced into a two-stop because of that contact we made with George. So we're only just about halfway through this Grand Prix then, as we go green again onto a new lap 15, and we are down in P7. We're second last place in this race because Bottas is behind us, and then that's it. Can we make a move on Armstrong? Maybe. Easy does it. Everyone bunching up so much. We daren't make a move on Guan Yu Zhou. Armstrong even is coming into the side of me and makes contact with me and pushes me wide to push me back down to P17. It's proving very difficult this afternoon as we re-overtake Armstrong. No damage to our car on the side after Armstrong went into us, but yeah, this is a tough old race, and we've still got so long to go, and there's no points in sight, it would seem. We've got a little bit close when we were in the top 6 initially, but of course then everything kind of went down the toilet, as it were. Meanwhile, you've got Mick Schumacher making a move on Verstappen. These two can't get rid of each other. Schumacher overtaking the man he ousted in the Silver Arrows, as I've said before, but it just keeps on happening. It's 3 wide now. Sainz gets in the middle of it, maybe, as well, on the outside, and now it's Ferrari v Mercedes. It's 3 abreast, further back down between the BMW, and look at this! Look at this! It's 6 cars covered by a blanket, pretty much. Drogovic versus the Alfa Tauri. Giovinazzi overtakes the BMW, and then you've got Russell overtaking Esteban Ocon up into P12. But, you know, the F1 game at Monza never disappoints. It's always so much action, lap after lap, with the slipstreaming, as now Guan Yu Zhou gets caught napping a little bit, to be honest, behind Pierre Gasly, and we make a nice little move down the inside. You may have noticed that time I gave him so much room because of PTSD from that George Russell Russell move. So trying to watch out for that now a lot in that corner as we watch Russell go to work again to overtake another car. Up into P11 he is now, as Ocon now defends against Pierre Gasly. Meanwhile, further up the road, Drogovic now on the outside of the Haas. Verstappen, though, comes back at him and re-overtakes him in the Haas. He may not have the out-and-out race pace, but you can see Verstappen clearly up for a fight, trying his best, but it may be a bit futile. Drogovic is going to come through. Giovinazzi might come through as well as the Lotus. He gets right in the middle of two cars there. That wasn't the best place to be honest, as now we watch on Leclerc, actually in the end of it, overtook all of them, and Leclerc's up into P7, so the AlphaTauri gets the Red Bull, and Gio is just ahead of Verstappen, and now looking at Drogovic. Meanwhile, Russell now is closing up as well. We're on the back of the other AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly into P14. It's deja vu, it's a very similar move, and we're slowly making our way up the order. You know, the car clearly still has a decent amount of pace there, as myself, Russell and Giovinazzi make our way through everyone. And really now you're seeing with the BMW and Verstappen up the road, now we're kind of getting through all the cars that are trying a one-stop, that are trying to get to the end on hard tyres. So it's actually a bit of an easier job because the hard tyres just aren't working very well at all in this race, but still the top 6 consists of people on the hard compound trying to go to the end. Leclerc, I believe, is actually the highest man. Well, now it's not. It's now Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi is the highest man on the medium tyres as Gio overtakes the man from Monaco up into P7 as we see Tsunoda tumble down the order, as I think he may have made a pit stop there as we squeeze past Verstappen using a bit of the grass as well, because I didn't fancy going on his outside, but instead in the middle of Parabolica we're going to get a bit of oversteer, a bit of drifting, and so Verstappen ironically actually still gets a good run on us then, and he actually is going to come back at us now for a move down the inside. We're fighting a backmarker Haas driven by Verstappen. This is such a weird thing, and I'm still not used to it. I'm sure you guys aren't as well, as we're now side by side with him. We have to actually give him a proper good fight and a good squeeze to make sure we get the move. Meanwhile, now a fight brewing between Russell, Drogovic, Ocon, and even Leclerc as well. At the moment, Russell trying to go for a half move, but Drogovic in the end actually is the one that's making a move right around the outside of the AlphaTauri. Really great move, and Leclerc's offset a bit, and so it's now Russell versus Drogovic down into turn 1. Ocon may try and overtake Leclerc. It's now going to be 2 by 2 here into turn 1. Russell on the outside. Drogovic still, though, fully getting the nose and getting the elbows out to try and maintain this position. And to be fair to the Brazilian, the Red Bull's actually picked up better traction there, was ahead, but now Russell's engine is able to pull through, and surely he finishes off this move to get up into P8, and that will be a really decent effort because now he's got clean air, and the next car along is Antonio Giovinazzi in the Lotus Renault. So our two rivals are now maybe going to be close together on circuit, fighting for more points, and Gio, crucially, is now on the back of Mick Schumacher. The rest of these cars ahead of Giovinazzi, they're all on hard tyres. So for these guys on fresher mediums, even for ourselves, once we catch up to them, hopefully, there'll be easy pickings. Oh, Christian Lundgaard spun it from the lead of the Grand Prix. He was leading the race in the other Lotus Renault, and he span it at his scar in the exit of that complex. The pressure has got to him. It's now Lando Norris in the lead in the McLaren, Sainz in P2, Stroll P3. Giovinazzi and Russell are now side by side, and they're both maybe going to try and make a move on Schumacher in the Mercedes. It will be 3 wide, just about. Russell on the right, Giovinazzi on the left, and it's 3 wide for the race lead. It's the Ferrari is into the lead now. So the Ferrari leads at their home race. That'll be amazing, but Stroll comes back at them then. So it might be the Canadian with his new engine in the Red Bull Porsche leading the way, and meanwhile Russell has confirmed that overtake on not only Schumacher but also Giovinazzi. Russell now is in the driving seat. He's in P4 on the mediums. Giovinazzi is still behind Mick Schumacher. Meanwhile for us, whilst all of that was kicking off, I'm still just trying to gain time and and bridge the gap to Leclerc. So we've been struggling so much for, you know, just being there with these guys that despite all this fighting, we're still just trying to gain the time to even get into a fight with Leclerc, let alone everyone else, as the Ferrari's now lost the back end in the same way he did at Belgium. Carlos Sainz has spun it, opening DRS, I think that was. It's some high-profile mistakes here from the Spaniard, just like in real life, ironically, as he just spins it. He just spins it with DRS, and I think there was nearly contact for Lando Norris. Russell did well to avoid it. Oh my God! Giovinazzi is one lucky bugger. He goes through the Ferrari. Ghosting system activates there. Otherwise, that would have been the most almighty collision. But Giovinazzi is in. He's still in. So even though he missed contact with the Ferrari, maybe he got a little bit of damage from going through his car or something. So that's massive for the race and for the championship. So Russell is in P3 now, I believe, after that incident with Carlos Sainz. Giovinazzi is down in P14, having made another pit stop. We've got a fourth safety car that is out now as we now make a bit of contact with Leclerc. Under the same, what is going on in this race? Everything and anything is happening in this Grand Prix. We nearly DNF on Leclerc under the safety car, my God. But yeah, we've got a fourth safety car. We're in P8 on, well, slightly worn mediums. Russell's P3, would you believe it, on slightly worn mediums. The two drivers ahead of him are on hard tyres. So Russell, after all of this, Russell might have a good chance of winning this whole thing. Giovinazzi, meanwhile, he's P14, but on a brand spanking new set of soft tyres with still a few laps to go. So let's see how this shakes up. At the moment, though, it might be Russell looking pretty damn good to maybe go for the win. What can we do, though? Can we try and join him on the podium? Trying to go for a move on Leclerc, but the AlphaTauri is pretty damn quick in a straight line into turn one, taking it easy. Leclerc dive bombs Drogovic. We're still trying to make sure we don't make contact with anyone in this race, because now this is crunch time. If you make any mistakes, any contact, that's it. Your race is completely ruined. We've done so well to still be here in the points now. Meanwhile, this is a replay. Whilst I was battling Leclerc into P1, Russell with the massive dive bomb. Look at that. He nearly got into the lead off the safety car restart. He's got Lando Norris, though. So Russell overtakes the McLaren up into P2 immediately on the restart and is now in second place, pressurizing, of all people, Lance Bloody Stroll in the Red Bull. Meanwhile, back to our POV, still trying to get Leclerc and maybe Drogovic if we can help it there as we go down this straight. No DRS available. We're gonna, it's gonna be 3 wide. This is not gonna end well. We back out of it because that really was not going to end well as Leclerc now made contact with the Red Bull. That's why I didn't want to stay in the fight there, because I was going to get pinched in. So potentially now Leclerc has damage off the back of the Red Bull car. Seems it, because he's very slow. We're going to pull out on the right-hand side and try and make a move. No! Oh! Where's Bottas come from? We almost lose the back end in the exact same place we spun it earlier on the race. The rear end stepped out because we went really wide. I think we dipped a tyre into the grass, because as I tried to go to the inside of Leclerc, Bottas just decided he's going to try and make a move and almost rear-ended Leclerc, and so we're still behind him. And Giovinazzi now is in P11. He's made great progress in only a lap and a bit on the soft compound, and he's actually not too far off gas in Bottas now as we look to overtake Leclerc. He's clearly struggling with a bit of front wing damage, so he will be an easy overtake, but Bottas keeps on annoying us in the Mercedes car, and all through the entire race we've been so poor off Ascari on that left-hander. We're down the inside of Leclerc, but Bottas has overtaken us, and so the Mercedes is up into P7 by the end of it. We've made the move. Leclerc's in. That will release Gasly and Giovinazzi, and here comes Giovinazzi looking to make a move, but Gasly as well. The AlphaTauri is so quick down this straight that he's now fully alongside us. Gasly now is annoying us, and Bottas is getting away, and Gasly's vaulted the curb and forced us wide a little bit. We squeeze him out for good measure, up into P7 again. Bottas, though, is pulled away from us now, and on the second last lap of the Grand Prix, we now find our championship rival, the man we're a point ahead of in the standings. We find him directly behind us on much fresher, soft tyres. That entire little, fighting with Leclerc and Bottas has massively hindered us, because not only do we have tyre wear anyway, we've now not got a gap to Giovinazzi, who's on fresher tyres, and so he's going to just, simply drive past us with ease with DRS, and in the corners, I can't gain on him. In the straights, maybe with a bit of DRS, but every corner now, he's much better than us. So if it finishes like this, which I think it will do with the tyre wear levels that we have, Giovinazzi will re-overtake us in the standings by 1 point. But meanwhile, this is the biggest story. As we go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, Russell, our teammate, started in P14, is now going for the race lead and the potential win into turn 1, side by side with the Canadian in the Red Bull, Lance Stroll, but he's got him on traction, and George Russell leads the way on the very last lap. He has not led this race once, apart from now, for the final 2/3 of this last lap. He's going to come through into Parabolica. It's been a madness of a race, so topsy-turvy, 4 safety cars, every single position I think Russell and myself have been in, but George Russell wins the Italian Grand Prix. It's his 3rd win of the season. That makes it 3 wins back-to-back for the aarava Archer Racing team, but for us, we're way down the order. We get points, but Giovinazzi beats us by 1 position and will get ahead of us by 1 point, and Russell gets a massive swing of points. But what a win for him. I mean, fair play. What a win.
Here we are then, a thoroughly deserved win in Italy after another excellent Grand Prix. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I think we'll chalk this one up to a deft touch on the brake pedal. That's allowed them to challenge down the inside into the braking zones, and ultimately, if you do that often enough, you end up winning the race. It was great to watch as well though, wasn't it? Forget strategy, forget tyre management. Who doesn't love a good old-fashioned scrap?
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
3 wins in this season, becoming the driver with the highest number of wins in the year, of course, with Giovinazzi on 2, myself with 2, and Ocon 2 as well. So, and Bottas with 1, if you remember, all the way back to the first race of this season, how far everything has come since then. And that's going to be a huge amount of points for Russell, because with Giovinazzi and myself down in P7 and 8, only scoring 6 and 4 points respectively, Russell is now in the lead by 14 points to Giovinazzi and 15 to myself. Although, to be fair, we've had a worse gap, okay? We've had a 43-point gap before. So 14 points, 15 points, that's nothing to me. That's nothing to me. But it is game on, because Russell, after a few races, you've got to admit, of having a bit of a quieter time and not scoring maybe as highly as he was at the start of the season, he's fully now back in it and has put down a marker of intent for this Drivers' Championship. But, to be fair, to get those kind of points in the race we had from the back of the grid, I'm actually quite happy, because so much happened to us in that race. We could have easily had a DNF this episode, so just to get some points is still a massive win, I think, and I think we did well, all things considered. So, guys, if you have enjoyed this one, though, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll catch you guys next time. It's race number 100 for the team and for myself on this game. Till then, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.